Welcome to the Porsche Club Insider, your one stop for all things Porsche and PCA. Here's your host, Vu Gwyn, and the Insider crew.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 58. It's good to be back. We're at PCA's national office. I'm here with Manny Albin, Damon Lawney, and of course, Robert Forsyth is at the controls. It's good to be back.
Yep. Yeah, but you went to...
I've been on a whirlwind trip.
Yeah, I was going to say Atlanta, Houston, and Utah.
Atlanta, Birmingham, Houston.
Oh, that's right, Birmingham.
Then Utah.
Wow.
But all was good. All was good. Thank you for handling the podcast. All went well, and I was sad to hear that Alan couldn't come.
He actually called me last night after hearing the podcast. I didn't tell him about it.
Oh, really?
I just forgot to mention it to him. And he was just thrilled that we mentioned his book, so grateful.
Yeah.
And I think the way his schedule works out, he may be coming to Parade to do the podcast.
Oh,
and,
nice. Okay.
And Tech Tactics. I'm going to convince him to do
that would
both
be
on
awesome.
the same day maybe. And, it's fairly close to him.
Yeah.
He's in Southern California. And he said he hasn't been to a parade since you said when Bob Miller was president. So
Oh, wow.
That's a long time ago.
All right.
Different Bob Miller.
Yes, not the Bob Miller we had on the show.
Past President Bob Miller.
Anyways, he was thrilled about his mention on the podcast.
That's awesome. He's such a sweet gentleman. And we had some conversations just yesterday with the folks at Meekum who were in and talking about Alan and all of his contributions to Porsche Motorsports and such. So, on once, I was sad that he wasn't here, but because I was traveling, I was kind of like, well, maybe that means when he does come that I will be here. But if he's coming to Parade, that's even better. I mean, we'll be able to share.
You got to read his book though.
Oh,
I have all these. I have all these pages bookmarked with the little pieces of paper with questions that I want to ask him about. And he said he'd be happy to talk further into the about the different topics, the different cars. But the part I wanted to get to, I hadn't gotten to yet when we did the podcast, was the 964 USA Cup cars, the series that was canceled. And I remember, Andal was doing the conversions, and he said that really pissed him off because they did all the work. He went to the factory and asked them to, when they built these cars, not to put any glue, which is known. The carpets and insulation, nothing was glued down.
Right.
So they could easily remove it, because that was the whole idea. They learned from the 959 about how to import these cars, so they were going to import them in basically as street cars and then take everything out and convert them to race cars as quick as they could. So they even would stop, in the book he describes how the Porsche actually stopped the production line to do some stuff to these Cup cars.
Really?
Which is unheard of, to stop the production line. But they did it, and of course the series is canceled, and so he has to put them all back together.
Whoa.
And he said that the thing that the straw that broke the camel's back was when they wanted him to perfectly put in all the interior and the leather back in and the stitching and everything. That's what he told them. You can come pick up your cars. I'm done.
Wow.
But what I didn't get from him was every car converted back, or did you? When you said you can come get your cars, does that mean there was still some that had not been converted? Because you always, I see ads and I read on the internet people who have ones that weren't converted back from race cars to street cars. So I got to get him to clear that up. But in the book it says that Fred Schwab, who was the CEO at the time of Porsche Cars North America, he announced the cancellation of the series, and he equated it to sisters kissing sisters. It doesn't make sense to have Porsches racing as Porsches. That's not real racing.
Wow.
Which we know is a
That's
joke, because that's
weird.
That's what the whole Carrera Cup series is.
Yeah.
And it's actually really fun to watch. But a couple years later, he's having dinner with Wendland Wiedeking. And Wiedeking says, "Why didn't you call me? I would have put a stop to that plan, and we would have had the series." And at the time, he didn't feel it was on that level with Wiedeking to call him and say, "Hey, I need you to intervene." He figured Fred Schwab was the last word.
Wow.
But it was.
I'm excited. Once you're done with the book, pass it on for the rest of the staff to look at it. I saw you taking photos of it. It is a thick book.
I think Chrissy wants to read it next. She said 500 pages.
500 pages. So want to make sure we say thank you to Mike or Gurney Eagle 500.
Yeah, I wanted to save it till you were here, so we didn't mention it last week.
So when he dropped a note of don't eat a big breakfast, I wasn't sure what was coming because he's from Florida, right? And I was wondering what pastry or what breakfast item would be coming from Florida, but actually what he sent us was a fantastic king cake from New Orleans, and yeah, it was a treat. And
But surprisingly, a lot of people in the office had no idea what a king cake was. Yeah. I was very surprised.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in New Orleans for a number of years, and so I was very familiar with king cakes, and I love them. And I remember I was in second and third grade. First, second, and third grade is when I was in New Orleans, and the tradition was the teacher would bring in the first king cake, and then you would divvy up the king cake, and whichever kid gets the little, and it's amazing to me that they still do this, is there's a little plastic baby inside the king
there's
cake.
There's a warning stamp on the box now that warns you there's a little baby inside
but
it.
Still though, right? But still, it is it literally is a choking hazard, but they still do it. And so as a kid, you would hope and wish that you would get the baby inside the king cake, because that means you're cool. But actually what it meant was
you're gonna have babies.
You would go home and tell your parents that you got the little baby, and your parents would have to go to the bakery and get the next king cake to bring into class, and it would go on for a couple of days during Mardi Gras. And it brought back great memories. And I think the bakery that he got it from is one of the most popular king cake bakeries, and it's Randizzi's, I believe it's called. And so hopefully, was that the first time you had it, Damon?
I didn't have any, actually. I wasn't here.
Oh,
it must have been a Tuesday or something. So
the king cake also came with some beads and mask, and so we definitely lived it up.
Yeah. So if you're watching the podcast, we have a little bit of video of what the office was up to while they were eating. I guess I don't know if that's called eating.
Supposedly our conference room, but it's more like our snack room.
Yeah, I don't remember that, so I must not have been here.
Yeah, so it was awesome. Thank you so much, Mike, for
And another thing, so Gurney Eagle, aka Mike, his Python Green 718 Cayman S is the Cayman S in our latest video, with the comparison against JRJ Porsche enthusiasts Carmine Red GTS 4.0. So
nice, and congratulations on that video. It seems like it's doing very well.
Yeah, I think people like the longer format, or comparisons, one of the two.
I saw that while I was away, not only kind of seeing what you guys were putting together for the podcast and listening to what you covered in Alan's book and such. I also saw that over the weekend you guys had some fun too. Guinness was on order.
Yeah, and the big news was that Guinness was stopping
closing his big brewery
in Baltimore. And everyone's very confused. They're going, so their place is closing down because they have a whole giant retail building right next to the brewery, which has a nice restaurant, and
they just opened that like 5
it seems like
6
just
years
a
ago.
few years ago.
Yeah.
So what they're stopping is the bottling, but it's also an experimental brewery where they try out new beers. So that's going to continue.
Mm-hmm.
So the restaurant and retail is going to continue, though the brewing is going to close.
Yes, the bottling,
manufacturing,
of the which I self-admit I am not a beer drinker. I wish I was, because I could join in their conversations of how they were
The hops
so deliciously describing all these different beers. I said, if we want to talk donuts, I'm in. But I'm just not a beer drinker. But the Baltimore Blonde, they said, which evidently hasn't been brewed or bottled in Baltimore in a while, will continue. It just won't be.
It just won't be
like
the
an
whole
old
big
Reels.
So anyways, the region planned a social there, and we had 100 and some cars.
Wow.
A bunch of cars lined up in front of the. I don't think any air cooled were allowed in this photo, or at least it seemed that way.
What happened? Where were they parked?
No, I was like the only air cooled guy at the beginning there, and I didn't feel like moving my car. But the region had I think over 100 people come to the
Nice.
to the social.
And is that place large? I mean, 100 people, that's a lot of people.
You never been there?
I've never been there. Is it big? Like, did you guys
It
take over
looks
the whole
big
thing?
inside.
Or?
They opened up a second level, which was great because we had the whole place, the second level, to ourselves. But by the time we left, there was other people in line waiting to be seated, and they have seating on the first floor It's they have in the summertime. It's great for the outside because it's a ton of outside seating. They have concerts.
Yeah, I know it's a real popular place, but for some reason, I've always been away or when they do something there in the region, so I've never been there.
Yeah, it's right off the interstate.
It's on my way to the airport in a few minutes.
There you go. You can stop.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they open at 10.
Now, Damon, I know you finally attacked that big project in the garage, right?
Yeah, and excuse me, have some allergies today, so pardon me if you hear that. But yeah, so I worked on the car a little bit this weekend. I've been circling back around, the past couple months, spending an hour here, hour there, but nothing major. And so I'll back up a little bit. When we were at Tech Tactics East, one of the technicians there, one of the people, the trainers told me, yeah, you drill 2 holes, and with screws and pull it out with the screws, for leverage. Mm-hmm. And then I told him, well, I don't have the engines in the car. So, well, here are these 2 tools. And so I got these 2 tools that are VWAG seal pullers that you would think would work really well. And so I used them and got good leverage. And I started to pull the seal out. And it actually broke the inner part of the seal and started pulling it out. So I was getting leverage, but instead of moving the seal, it was tearing the seal apart, which I think we covered in the last podcast. Yeah. So I texted one of our tech experts, Peter. He told me, yeah, we usually just drill 2 holes in and pull it out with screws. I talked to Rich over at Speed, and he said, I use a pick, and which I told him, well, I use the pick. And
but you can pull it out straight.
I couldn't pull anything out. The tip of the pick broke off, but didn't fall in.
Oh.
But he told me, actually, don't worry, because there's actually a little area where if anything falls, you can just scoop it out later.
Oh.
So knowing this information, I ended up getting and this is, Robert, where you can put the photo of the drill up. But I got an attachment for the drill, which is a flex attachment with a right angle head. Mm-hmm. And on the end of that is a 3/4 inch self-tapping screw, which is what Peter told me to use. And so what I ended up doing was, and if you go to this last picture in a second, Robert, what I ended up doing was drilling 2 little holes into the seal using the self-tapping screw.
Okay, yep.
And then I took those out because I only broke the surface a little bit and screwed into loops, which if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. And these 2 little hooks, I thought it would make it really easy. I can get some leverage, put a screwdriver, and sort of pull on it, and yank on it on both sides. So I did that first with some gold or brass, smaller hooks, and they started to bend. So I unscrewed them out, put in these slightly larger silver ones. Mm-hmm. Or not silver, but steel
ones, yeah.
And much thicker. And those loops actually started to bend. If you're watching on YouTube, there shouldn't be a gap in between the end of the loop.
Really?
So I'm yanking on 2 screwdrivers, trying to pull the seal straight out, which is what you're supposed to do with leverage. I can't get the seal to move.
Wow, that's a lot of force.
So Rich told me, yeah, it's like the easiest seal to pull out of the car. And I'm thinking,
what?
Really? So, yeah, I don't know. I'm sure at some point I'll get it out. Rich,
so it's not out yet.
It's not out yet.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm sure at some point I'll get it out. But Rich mentioned that Porsche used sealant on that. And I need to double confirm this because usually Porsche doesn't use sealant on their seals. Yeah. Like the RMS, you just put it in dry.
But isn't that the one that you put in though?
No, this is the front main seal, not the rear main seal. So this is where the crank pulley goes. It's a much smaller seal, but similar. Okay. So yeah, I was told, once you get it moving, it comes out more easily, but I haven't been able to get it move yet, and I've really put some force into that. But so yeah, this is one of those things where I guess a little bit of advice is you go into a project, maybe you've done it before, on a different car. If it's your only car, your daily, don't do it. Yeah. Always make sure you have a different car because this car has been up for a couple months and I've been taking my time. And no matter what I do, I can't get that seal out.
So remind me again, why are you pulling that seal?
I should have sent another picture to Robert, but it looked like there was a little bit of dampness on the bottom part of the seal, which it looked like it was starting to weep oil.
Oh, so you're
So I'm
just
thinking,
replace-
well, I've replaced it before on other cars. Like, it's not hard to pull a seal out and put a new one in. So how could it be any different? Well, in
You were
this
planning to do
case,
this all along to give it better lubrication when you were going to go to the track, right?
sort of, but not really. It was just to make sure that, I was already in there. I'd pulled the pulley off to put the damped underdrive pulley on it. Since I have a lightweight flywheel, I needed a damp pulley to help with vibrations and all that. But so I did that because I'm thinking, I'm in there. I know that it's starting to weep a little bit.
Yeah.
I might as well do the right thing and replace it.
Man, I gotta tell you, you got way more patience than I do. Woo.
Yeah, well, I mean, some of it's, like you get home on the weekend and sometimes you just don't want to work on a car. So that's played into it as well. But
All right, well, good luck. I thought
I'll get it done.
I thought this was like the celebration that
no,
you figured it out
it's
and
not.
you pulled it
This
out.
is why Manny told me to not tell you before this podcast, right?
Oh,
But yeah, it'll happen. I'm not worried. It's a little aggravating and it's eating into autocross season. But just got to put that out of mind.
all right. Well, if you guys will allow me, I've got a couple of things to go over since I've been on the road. First off is congratulations to Kel Gruner, Michelle Rainey, Aisha Coker, Jonathan Sieber. I was in Atlanta. I guess now it's 2 Thursdays ago for the West Course expansion and grand opening and the Classic Center grand opening. And it was amazing. This is an expansion to the facility in Atlanta outside of the Atlanta airport. And it was just unbelievable what they put together. I mean, I wouldn't say it was a rock concert, but I mean, they brought in bleachers, they brought in lighting, they had the mayor of Atlanta, they had a choreographed exhibition of the cars on the track. So the new track is 1.3 mile circuit with an ice hill and corkscrew and carousel. They were talking about taking inspiration from Nordschleife, Daytona, and Laguna, and the who's who were there. It was amazing. PCA was very well represented. A few executive council members, myself. I actually brought Bogdan with us down there. The Classic Club Coupe was on display inside the Classic Center, as well as the 50th anniversary, the #1 car that Porsche has. And man, it was really, really well done. And you never know kind of what level Porsche is going to take it, but man, they took it to the next level.
Yeah, they usually do.
I can see some budget money being spent there. But before all of that, when we got in, Calvin Kim arranged for us to take a drive in a Panamera 4E hybrid, and we hadn't done so in a while, or at least I haven't.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And we took it around Atlanta, and I tell you what, we were planning to use the Roads app to do like a quick little tour, and we pulled it up and we found a little course. But Atlanta traffic, man, Roads app can't take care of that. I mean, It's just we went about 10 miles and we just got stuck. So then we went back to the roads around PEC, and I don't know when the last time you were there, but it's really turned around. Like, it was kind of run down when PEC first moved in, but now you can kind of start seeing where, newer restaurants and, artsy walls and stuff like that. So there's some photos for those of you that want to see on YouTube that there were some walls that were made for a great backdrop for taking photos. And so we did get to drive it. Didn't get to drive it a whole lot or at speed, but I will say that the hybrid technology and the transmission of this car is so much better. Remember when we had I think it was a 2012 or 2014?
It's like a 2018 actually.
Or
It was
18?
pretty new.
Yeah.
Still 5 years ago now, right? So
Yeah, I know, but like
been a while.
the early models of these e-hybrid, like the transition between the gas powertrain and the electric was kind of clunky. Like, I remember when it first came out, and I'm like, I mean, yeah, it's kudos for doing it, but it wasn't like seamless. This new car, it is seamless and it is fast. Like, it is man, I could totally see myself like hopping in one and just driving across the country in it.
Give me a Panamera 4E hybrid or an S to choose from, though, and I'd probably still choose the S.
Choose the S.
Yeah.
I think us diehards will always still go for it.
I'll say with my commute, a hybrid's not going to help as much, right?
Yeah.
Because I got to drive kind of far. So that's my excuse.
Didn't we go get pretzels like all on
Yeah,
E-Power?
we did. We went to that German restaurant nearby. Got pretzels for the office.
Yeah,
it was fun.
And so that was cool. This was the first time for Bogdan down at PEC, so he has got an inventory of photos of all different cars of the facility. So if you haven't checked out the PCA Instagram page, I think the most recent one was the Turbo S. I mean, that building, everywhere you go, it's picturesque, and he did a great job capturing some of this. And, talking about hanging out, it pays to hang out because we got most of our stuff done on Wednesday and Thursday, but we were just hanging out, and we noticed the GT4E Performance was kind of running around. And so we...
Which I believe Rob was there, too.
Yeah, Rob got a ride in it.
Yeah.
Of course he did.
Yeah.
And I didn't get a ride in it, but I was there, got to see it up close and personal, and that thing is bad. I mean, people are like, it looks like it's an RC car out on the track, and it really does. And it has, of course, an electric sound to it. It's the continuation of the Mission R. And the drivers and even Rob, he said, I have never been anything so brutally fast. And they're saying, close to 1,000 horsepower?
Something like
when
that,
you turn
qualifying trim, and then can run for half an hour. So basically like a tank of gas in a cup car race.
What I didn't know is that it can charge to 80% in 15 minutes.
Yeah, 800 volts.
Yeah, man, that's
8 or 9.
Crazy. So maybe Matthias Schultz, Manny, Matthias, he is in charge of that, and I hopefully that's a glimpse into what's to come for us.
I remember he was back at Tech Tactics West and East.
back
in 2015 or 16, with the first 981 Cayman GT4 Club Sport. So now he's E Performance, huh?
Yeah.
We should get him back to Tech Tactics.
Absolutely. So after that, hopped in a car with some EC members and headed out to Birmingham for executive council meetings. And the reason why we went to Birmingham is because we will be there next year for parade. So checking out the facility, it was typical meeting, Saturday and Sunday, nothing too interesting there other than the normal course of business. Then I jumped on a plane and met my family in Houston for some college visits. My son is considering Texas A&M, where my dad graduated and actually where I was born. So I went to Bryan, Texas. So that was pretty interesting. And from there, headed to Utah to check out the University of Utah. My daughter's there now. My son got into the honors engineering program there, and so we toured that. But I did get to do a little bit of fun stuff there because what's great about PCA is no matter where you go, you have family. And so we got to visit some PCA members there. Eric Shea at PMB Performance, we stopped by his shop, which for those of you in Salt Lake, Utah area, if you haven't been there, it's a very cool facility. He happened to buy it right at the beginning of COVID. And the showroom, unfortunately, I was so in awe with the showroom, I didn't take a picture of it, but you have to go there for yourself. The showroom is beautiful, and I'm like, man, he spent a lot of money on this, but turns out it was kind of turnkey. The person that owned it before was in furniture, like custom furniture, so they built this gorgeous showroom, and where he has stuff for his parts, it's actually stuff where they like displayed their chairs, and it was like ready to go. And so congratulations to Eric and PMB Performance. That's where a lot of folks, they're probably best known for rebuilding.
Don't they only do brakes, or they do a lot more?
That's the thing.
Okay,
so Eric, I don't know how many years ago, but out of his garage, and was in a small shop, was really just starting to build a small business of restoring Porsche brakes, Porsche specific brakes, and 914 brakes and 356 brakes, so on and so forth. And it grew from there. And he's doing a lot of different, I think he even had like Jeep calipers in there and Ferrari calipers. And he has the whole process where you send the calipers, they catalog them, dismantle them. They have like a cleaning dip and ovens, and like they do from A to Z to take your old calipers to new again. And I think Damon, maybe we can organize, if at some time we're out there in that area, just like we did with Ellen Engineering, to go through the process of how they rebuild the calipers. And it's pretty amazing, and the logistics of it all, and a lot of it's still very manual, but he does it also in a very environmentally safe way. And so they're best known for refinishing brakes, but now because of the facility that he has, he's actually doing work on cars as well. So they're doing a lot of 914s, but they do 356s, and they can do other cars too.
Nice, very cool.
And so as far as wrenching and stuff, unfortunately I didn't do anything as cool as you, as trying to pull out that seal.
I wouldn't call that cool, but
but I you know how sometimes you're just on various forums and you come across a tool that you're like, I need one of those. And so I normally have a cap for the oil filters on the cars that I own, right? So you just grab the exact cap, and that way you can remove the oil filter pretty easily. But I used to have this, and I think I let somebody borrow it. I think I let my dad borrow it, but it was like a universal sort of sprung clawed thing that you could put on any filter and then just back it out super easily. But the one that I used to have was kind of bulky and big, and so I was on somewhere and I saw this one, and this was really thin. It's made by OEM Tools. You can get it on Amazon. It's very thin. It also has a spring claws like my other one, but it also has a magnet on it, so it sticks itself to the oil filter, and you can, with very little clearance, you can get some good leverage. And I always tighten my filters by hand, but for some reason when it comes time to take them off, taking them off by hand is kind of tough. And or when family members drop cars off, right? They're notorious for dropping off a car where someone put the oil filter on with like freaking 1,000 foot-pounds of torque. So
I use a strap wrench. I don't know. Have you ever?
I have those. I have a strap wrench, and I have the one that kind of is like a claw, but sometimes it's so tight in there, like you don't really have room, and you don't have the leverage. And so that's my new tool.
Nice.
But yeah. And so I saw the car that we bought from Nathan. I hadn't seen it before. Remember, I bought the Acura MDX from Nathan for my daughter.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say we who bought a car? Your daughter. Nice.
Yeah. So I saw it for the first time. 215,000 miles. My daughter loves that thing, and it's the right vehicle. The roads in Salt Lake City are horrendous.
Yeah.
And anyways, have you guys bought windshield wipers recently?
Been a while. Well, for the Golf, yeah.
Have you bought windshield wipers, Manny?
Yeah, the Porsche.
How much do you expect to pay for a windshield wiper?
You do realize this thing called inflation has been going on for
it's
quite
crazy.
a few years?
It freaking knocked me out. I walked in, I'm like, honey, just stop by AutoZone. Well, the AutoZone didn't have what I needed.
How much did you expect to pay?
I was thinking like $15 a wiper.
Yeah.
I'd say $20-$30 for a set.
Yeah.
Now, but if you like get it at the dealership, maybe it would be like $80.
$20 for a set is a deal.
No, I was thinking that they'd be like $15-$20 each. They're now like 30.
What car?
For her Acura MDX, like a 26-inch blade.
Oh, no wonder it's 26-inch.
Yeah, but I think across the board, even if you got like a 20-inch,
747's going, damn, that's a big wiper.
But I was like, man, I can't believe I'm spending almost $100 on wipers for her car.
Yeah.
She's like, Dad, it's okay. I'm like, honey, I'm gonna get them for you. Don't worry.
Yeah, Costco. That you should probably, if they have the size, Costco sells wipers.
How much are they? Like they
probably
have,
cheaper than everywhere else.
That's
what
true.
I always assume.
That's true. That's true. But here's the thing: is like, again, I always like to try to. If I was smart, I should have just bought it through Amazon, had it drop ship. I was like, I'll buy locally. So, but what happens? I get burned. I go locally. I go to AutoZone. Freaking, they had one but not the other. And then I went to O'Reilly's, and thankfully, they had everything. But yeah, $100 worth of windshield wipers.
That's a lot.
Yeah, but that's pretty much it for car stuff. Did you get to rent or do anything? I see that you drove the Boxster today.
Yeah, we're putting the hardtop on because we got to transport it back home since we're clearing out the office building.
Oh, okay.
Instead of trying to squeeze it into the back Suburban, I said just put it on
the
car.
car.
And we'll
drive it home.
We'll drive it home.
So have you figured out you're gonna do a hoister? I got to get you that tool that I used to have for my Jeep, unless you bought one already.
Let me see what your tool looks like. I've been watching some. There's not a whole lot out there on videos and there's not a whole lot out there that you can buy pre-made
To put the top on?
to put have the hoist have the hardtop hanging from a ceiling.
Yeah. So basically, so you don't like scratch the car and all that.
Or just gets it out
No,
of the way.
storage.
Gets out.
Yeah.
Just
Okay, I see.
excuse me,
what you're
just to
talking
store it
about.
out of the way. So yeah, so I used to have a Jeep Wrangler, and
They do make stuff for the Jeep, but it's not. It looks easy to do, but you start reading and whatnot, getting the balance right.
Yeah.
It's like everyone who drives the 4-point doesn't it like tips over because it's weight heavy. It's heavy on one side.
Yeah.
So it's like a triangle setup, and there was one video on YouTube I saw that looks pretty legit. And Harbor Freight has a $100 electric hoist.
Oh, electric hoist.
So
Okay.
everything else is it looks like Egyptian times building the pyramids with all these pulleys and
Pulleys.
stuff. And I'm like, I don't want that crap in my garage all over the place. All I need is somebody accidentally unloosen the rope and
And
they
it
think
just
I'm
drops.
smashing down on the car.
Yeah.
So the electric hoist would be perfect because I have access to
Oh, the attic, right?
the attic and the ceiling, and I can make it
Reinforce it.
exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I'm driving the Boxer today.
Yeah, I remember with the Jeep that it was nice because you could just have kind of place the hook right above where you needed to, and then hook onto it, and then I didn't have electric when I had it's almost like a boat winch thing, and just draw it right up, and then when I needed it, I just dropped it right back on the car.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice.
But I added once it was up, I added a second chain just in case what you were thinking about, like somebody bumps the
rope
reel,
of the winch.
the reel
Yeah.
winch that would become dropping down. All right, so you want to go into the news?
Sure.
So the new GTS.
Well, spy shots of the new GTS, and the spy shot photographers are theorizing this is the GTS because it has the center lock wheels, and it's about time for them to come out with the new GTS. The big rumor or big speculation is whether or not this will be a hybrid GTS, because as we know, the 992 platform is set up for a hybrid system. So I think the big question will be really Rennsport, because it sounds like it's not going to be at LA, the big announcements for cars. It's going to be at Rennsport. So what cars will they debut at Rennsport? And
Well, yeah, they're definitely not going to be debuting at LA because they're not even going to have a presence at LA.
I wasn't sure we could say that or not. But all right, now you said it.
So we can say it.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't know this. They're not going to be there?
Yeah, they're not
Well,
gonna be there.
let's correct that, and I want to say let's correct that because they may be there, but they may be there as a dealer show,
That's true.
which is nothing like we're used to seeing. Like in Baltimore, at the convention center, they have the car show, auto
Yeah.
show, and it's always weak as far as when you're used to seeing something at L.A. or it used to be New York or Detroit. And the dealer show is basically where the area dealers get together, pull their money, and display cars from their own inventory. The big shows like L.A., Detroit, and New York used to be New York. Now it's not even that anymore. Is where the debuts came out. So Porsche did announce, at least to us, that they won't be at L.A. this year because of Rennsport.
Yep.
So they got to debut a car somewhere.
Yeah, but
And-
they will be back. For those of you that are worried, they will be back.
Yeah.
But that brings a good point. Like, not to take away from this news item, but auto shows are like
Kind of pointless, in my opinion.
kind of pointless now.
Yeah.
The most the ones that we've gone to recently, they've all turned into like a little electric car tracks, and like the big manufacturers are gone, and it's kind of sad.
Well, they can't control the message as good as they can when they have it at an event that basically they're
That's
the
dedicated,
one, like
yeah.
PEC or Rennsport even.
or,
yeah.
or Monterey Car Week.
Yeah.
Like the Quail had a ton of debuts last year.
And I think the auto shows and or the convention centers got kind of greedy after decades of having sort of the stronghold on manufacturers and saying you have to pay this price or you have to pay unions and this, that, and the other, and manufacturers are going, wait a minute, for the 7 figures I'm spending to be there for a week, I could have, as Manny said, a dedicated either physical event, or they could have some sort of digital promotion, or they could have it at their own facilities. For maybe they still spend the same amount of money, but I think the impressions are a lot stronger, and you're reaching a specific, target market as opposed to just the general population.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're not pointless, for people to go and check cars out, but for debuts, for unveilings, like it's almost easier to watch the live stream of the debut sitting at home at your computer so you can write the story up right then and there.
Yeah.
Rather than walking back to the press room, looking at your notes. Like, I mean,
yeah, but for new cars, I think it's good because how many times you've seen a car on paper or on TV and you thought of it one way, but when you were there and you talk to the people and they're showing you the details of the car.
The Damon's point from a media point of view,
Yeah.
Most of the time that car's already been showed to other
It's
people.
leaked
That's true.
or showed
That's true.
or
Or you have
whatever.
like the elite media people who
Yeah,
get
I've
to
already
see it
seen
the
it.
day before,
Yeah.
or they just flat out just release photos of it a couple days before.
Yeah.
The press is going to see it. So at the days of them, pulling the cover off the car and everyone seeing it for the first time ever are pretty much gone.
Yeah, it just doesn't work like that. I mean, for potential customers, car shows are great still, right? Because you get to go and, it's a little easier to go to a car show than walk up to a dealer and ask to sit in all the cars, and walk around and see the competition, But from a media perspective, what's the
let's say
benefit of an unveiling?
Whatever, let's say the ST, we've been talking about that. The ST would be a perfect place for Rennsport for them to debut the ST. What a better place to show it off, because then you can put it right on the racetrack.
Oh yeah,
And show it doing laps.
right.
Right after you show it, which you can't do in a convention center because
Right,
it's very
yeah.
static.
Right.
So, yeah, I think Rennsport will be interesting to see what they debut and show off, and whether or not this GTS will be part of it, or will that be saved till next year. The hybrid 911 is coming, and in reading the article, the way they can tell it's probably a hybrid is because it has to have a yellow sticker.
Yeah.
It's warn emergency crews that it has a lithium battery, and
Which makes you think, are they going to say, what, Carrera 4 GTS is all-wheel drive because it has a front electric motor, and then the rear-wheel drive is just the Carrera GTS, or do you have an option to pick an electric motor? And then we're seeing the GTS, obviously, that can't be a base Carrera or a Carrera S, but we still haven't seen the facelifted version of the 992. And the GTS usually comes out after the Carrera S. So interesting seeing all these cars like all at once,
So we've been talking a lot about the ST, and this year's a huge celebration for Porsche. Also, Rennsport Reunion. Last time we were at Rennsport Reunion, they had the 935, right?
Yep. And the special edition Reunion,
Rennsport car.
GTS.
I read an article somewhere where they were saying, don't expect a successor to the 918 Spider anytime soon.
That's what I've been told too.
But I would be betting that with all the celebrations, with how long it's been, I'm kind of thinking that there's probably is going to be something big.
So
Like supercar?
That's what I want to believe.
So it sounds like maybe,
I can't tell if this is Vu. I know something you don't know, and I'm leaking it a little bit, or just Vu speculating like Manny and Damon would be speculating.
So assuming Vu might not be speculating, and we can read between the lines a bit.
Nope.
We're not?
I'm just saying. I believe that
Maybe they announce it and have maybe a
I spoke
concept
to
or
some
something.
pretty high people up at Porsche, and I asked him this exact question.
Yeah.
And their response was, and it was pretty well thought out, was that there's only so much money in the world, and when you start manufacturing these type of supercars or hypercars, suddenly your audience is shrunk to who can actually afford these cars,
Right.
And they need to make a certain amount to turn a profit. It's not only they're making 5 of them, and who I was speaking to said, because I asked him, I said, are we going to have a supercar version of the 963 or something based on the latest prototype? And he said it's not the right time. And plus, we haven't seen any spy shots.
And it's the battery tech that I've been reading in some other articles as well, and which makes sense, because our solid state batteries are not a thing yet, At least not mass
Now,
consumption.
whether they will have now, with that said, they could easily have something they're working on in 5 years, because I do remember when they were building the 918, they invited the executive committee to go look at the 918, but it wasn't available to the public. It was to select customers, and they had it at Laguna, in the garages, through the hardest to get through security. But that's not really fair to the general audience as far as what we can tell them what's coming, because they're not going to see that car, probably hear about it, because you got to sign all these NDAs and everything. I do remember that one had cardboard brake calipers.
Well, remember when we got to see the 918 Spider when the exhaust was on the sides? And
That's the first thing I remember looking at. It was up on the it was actually in a hangar at Laguna, not Laguna, excuse me, at Monterey Airport. And first thing I thought was, this is never going to make it a production, because my ankle hit it. And
but then when they were saying, well, it's going to be at the top, and we're like, well, that's never going to happen. No one ever does an exhaust on the top. But lo and behold, yeah. So, anyways, that was my hope, and reading what they said there, I was just like, I don't know. I have a feeling that Porsche's got something up their sleeves. So the next news item is kind of interesting. We've talking about the Panamera 4E hybrid, talking about the GT4E performance. Now, for those of you that have a classic air-cooled 911 but want to lean into,
you will have nothing in common with the Panamera hybrid, because that is very often used term high tech.
Yeah,
it is. This is. I can never see myself doing this unless gas engines were just flat out banned.
That's to me. I would agree with you.
But I give kudos to the company that's done this, because they're using the original gauges, but they mean differently. Obviously, the gas tank is still the gas gauge is the battery
level
gauge, and I think the oil temperature is the temperature of the batteries. If I remember reading that correctly, it's and they kept a lot of the characteristics. Of course, it has it's a heavier car because of the batteries and whatnot. But I can see this is definitely an alternative. If
so, for those that aren't watching on YouTube, it's electrogenic. It's a electric conversion for an air-cooled Porsche. And kudos to them for effort and being able to transplant an electric motor and put it into an air-cooled and get it running. My biggest barrier to it is it's $120,000.
Yeah, and I don't think it's like I said, it's not high tech like the Panamera or most other purpose-built electric cars. It doesn't regenerate.
It's basically battery
and go. It doesn't have that kind of range. But and they're not the first ones to have done this. It's been done for a while. And of course, it's wicked fast compared to the original power plant.
So how much do you want to bet that the torque number is a typo?
I saw that.
What was the torque number?
So I saw this because I included an e-brake last week, but there was one with a headline that said it had like over 2,000 pound-feet of torque.
2,000?
But only has like 214 horsepower.
But did you see where they had to put in different axles? That's what made me wonder. Maybe it is correct.
Yeah.
Because they had to use different
to
axles.
Twist the axle?
I guess it would with that much torque.
It just that doesn't make sense. And so one article had a headline saying that, then another article
it was
said
less than 200 horsepower, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's like 214 horsepower. Then another article said that it must be a typo. It's 236 horsepower, not 2,360. So yeah, put an asterisk there. We should probably go to the website and check that out and get back to you next week. But yeah, interesting. It's a lot of torque.
Well, I would say even if it was, 200 foot-pounds of torque, but if it was instant, I would say a factory, axle probably can't handle 200.
Well, 2,300 pound-feet of torque. Do semis even have?
That's like dragster. NHRA dragster.
2,000 would definitely snap it. But what I'm saying is, if it is a typo, even 200 but instant from a standstill could probably snap a factory axle.
Yeah, I could see that happening.
I like to drive one though. So
of
if
course,
anyone has one that's willing to let us drive it, that would be very cool.
Very cool. Yeah, definitely. You have old school looks, but you have, electric powertrain, and it probably sounds cool. I saw something from, who was it that, like an exhaust manufacturer. Maybe I don't know if I saw it or if I was dreaming it, but there's like an exhaust manufacturer that is making, instead of exhaust, making speakers that you put at the
We
bottom.
saw that at SEMA, the Tesla. Remember?
Yeah.
It was hooked up to the Tesla, and they could change the tone.
You could change it to like sound your electric vehicle to sound like a Mustang, or you could sound like a old Camaro.
That doesn't appeal to me at all.
Like that's weird.
Doesn't
That's
appeal
so
to me
weird.
either.
Yeah, but
I mean,
For somebody, maybe.
but neither does the sound of the Cayman electric race car.
the GT4E Performance.
Yeah,
it sound that
at least the video that Rob sent us, that was horrific.
it sounds like a bunch of gears grinding and like high pitch, and it's definitely aggressive sounding, but it's not like melodic.
No,
Right? It's not melodic, but it sounds like scary, crazy.
Yeah, sounds fast.
Gears are mashing. Yeah.
It sounded like a Roomba that was really pissed off.
exactly. Very, very pissed off. All right, what's his third one? Board member and
I guess this falls under the. I know he's not a family, but he and Volkswagen and I believe Porsche are both denying any that this was in any part their idea or something they approved of. But one of the Porsche supervisory board, not the actual board of Porsche AG. So this is the one that oversees the family investments, if you will. Sent a letter to Putin offering to help use Volkswagen's resources to help rebuild the automotive industry in Russia.
Yeah. Okay.
Which, of course, there's a little war going on, and a lot of places are like distance themselves from Russia. And he wants to bring back the Volga.
Yeah. What's a Volga?
Old
That's
Russian
exactly
car.
what everyone says.
What's a Volga? I've never heard of that.
Do you remember the one we see at I don't know, were you with me in Cars and Coffee? There's a guy that brings a Russian...
Oh, yeah, I've seen that
the
car.
one I said.
Is that a Volga?
He was telling us that the KGB would always drive this, and that if you see this car pull up in front of your house...
Bad news.
People would run out the back door.
Yeah.
Because it was bad news. Yeah, exactly. It was only the KGB would drive it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a Volga or not, but that's what I envisioned. Of course, that's
like
like a 1962 version.
It was like a box, basically a box with minimal equipment.
Aerodynamics,
Yeah.
minimal... no,
minimal everything.
Yeah, it was like, here's $1,000, build a car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Volkswagen was not very happy that this got out. Their Spiegel did an article about it, which is their German news magazine.
VW and Porsche, I believe, in this article were claiming they didn't know about it and that he sent that. So, to their credit, it sounds like this was done by him. But yeah, interesting to
Reminding
hear.
me of Billy Carter during the Jimmy Carter administration. You know, when he would do stuff, and they would have to say, "We were not aware.
We were not aware.
This is not the thoughts of the administration."
Separate themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, family.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's a family member. He's on the board.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know how much longer, but
Yeah. No knowledge, they claim.
I'm sure in his head he thought that was a great idea.
Hey, profit's profit, right?
Yeah, a missed opportunity is the Russian. Maybe he didn't remember the fact that there's a war in Ukraine, and most countries are trying to stay away from Russia.
Yeah. How crazy. Any video updates upcoming or things you want to touch upon?
Yeah, we have the 718 Cayman S versus Boxster GTS 4.0 that just came out. Got a few videos in the hopper that aren't edited, and it's going to be a slow week this week. But we'll be coming back with some more 1 mile reviews from a collection nearby and some other cars in Pennsylvania. And I've got a couple ideas to start filming our normal Tuesday videos or weekly non-review videos.
Okay.
So it's going to be a slow week.
So the I'm enjoying how much more in depth you're going with the car. So hopefully those that are listening, if you're enjoying that too, let us know, because the whole idea of the 1 mile review was something during COVID and such that we came up with to do quick and easy. It wasn't supposed to be in depth, but still just give you some channel content. But it seems that sort of format has run its course. And
Did I just see you reach down on the gear and try to change it?
I use the gear lever sometimes.
No,
Let's see
just
here.
like you went to reach down to
shift?
upshift, and you realize you're driving automatic.
I might have. It happens sometimes. Let's see. Did
Because it's like what I would have done. Like you're going to either upshift the third or downshift the second.
just do it.
No, I have not seen it right now. There was one time where I was going to go shift and I realized I was already in the gear I wanted, but that was in the GTS 4.0.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was interesting. In a nutshell, it really comes down to, and I mean, 718 is a 718. Boxer Cayman. They're very similar cars. The big differentiator, surprise, surprise, is the engine.
Yeah.
Right. And I guess you could say the transmission, but I enjoyed PDK or a manual gearbox, but that flat 2.5 liter in the S it's a really strong motor. It's actually quicker than the GTS 4.0. It's louder. It's a more visceral experience. The power is right in the mid range where you want it, and the torque. And I'm not dishing on the GTS 4.0, but man, like after so many people and journalists have said, oh, they gave us the 6-cylinder, and it's kind of like when you hop in both the same, at least me, when I hop in both, I'm thinking it's not that much better. I mean, unless you absolutely have to have a 6-cylinder, which some people do.
Some people do, yeah.
So
we've always talked about this where people rehash what they read and they've never even driven the car.
Yeah.
And this even falls under journalists. Will
Sure.
just rehash what they've been told, and becomes like this is institutional knowledge now. Everyone knows that the 4-banger is not as good as the flat 6. When in reality, if you drive it, you're like, holy crap, this is incredible.
Yeah.
This is
it's a preference thing. But
everything in life is really depends on what you want. It's and when I used to sell audio and stereo, you had to qualify the customer and say, what are you going to do with it? What do you want out of it? Not people came and said, I want the best.
Yeah.
You were always afraid, well, you give them the best, they're going to find out maybe this isn't what they wanted.
Right, exactly.
yeah, there are a couple things that I didn't mention in the review that I'd like to mention here. Somebody commented, and I watched a video. I want to say, I forget who it was. Maybe it was Everyday Driver or... but basically, the GTS 4.0 cars with the 6-cylinder have less interior room because the engine ate into some of the interior space. So apparently, taller people.
I saw that, and I never knew
No, that's
that.
a thing. And whatever, maybe it was a.
Does that mean the
Demura video?
firewall is different?
Yeah, it's different. So there's actually less room. So taller people, you have like 2 fewer inches, in the GTS 4.0. So if you're a really tall person, the 4.0 actually might not work for you. So keep that in mind. That's something that I don't
little bit of room can make a difference inside the interior of a car.
And it's a thing.
all.
Whoever
It's a
made
thing.
that comment, I forget the name. Thank you for reminding me, because that is actually a thing. He's not telling a fib there. That's real info that you need to know when you're buying these cars.
Yeah.
And then the gosh, I had one other thing I was going to mention here, but maybe I'll think of it in a second.
I mean, equal price. If they were equal price, I would probably pick the GTS.
Yep.
Simply because it has probably more creature comforts and whatnot. But that doesn't mean that the 4-cylinder is anything less. And 914s would fall into this. Everyone wanted the 914-6. But you start talking to people who drove both, and they were like, well, really the 4-cylinder is much more practical and easier to drive. It's fuel injected, it's peppier, it's lighter, but the 6 carries that, that's the one to get. You have to get a 6.
Right.
Another thing to consider, actually, with the flat 4 turbos is the tuning potential down the line. If you're somebody who likes, and it's already faster, 350 horsepower 718 Cayman S is faster than a 394 horsepower Boxer GTS 4.0, or at least quicker, in acceleration. Just think if you chipped it 50 more horsepower to 400 and more torque. Wow, that's going to be a quick car. So anyway, my 2 cents there.
Yeah, no, very cool. And the other thing for people to keep in mind is, we get access to cars because people volunteer, right? And so sometimes the cars that we're comparing aren't like the ideal examples to compare to each other.
It's tough to get the exact Porsche.
We would love to be able to compare cars perfectly, but it really comes down to what cars are available to us.
Yeah,
which is actually the way life is.
Yeah,
because it's rare that you're going to get 2 cars if you're shopping for a car. They're identical. That you can say, well, I want this one. Well, just these options, especially now with the way the market is. So.
Something else too, onto that point, is Porsche has so many options that change how the car feels, whether it's interior quality or connectivity options, or in the case of the Cayman S, you had to option the PTV Plus and the limited slip differential and all that kind of good stuff. But I forget where I was going on this point. Man, that's happened twice now.
He's getting older.
I know, right?
He's getting older.
Yeah, but these 2 cars, they were about the same price, yet you had to option the Cayman S up to where the GTS 4.0 is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I wouldn't regret if I had a 4-cylinder Cayman.
Not at all.
But maybe that's probably more my price point when it comes to that time. But after I drove that one on the 1 mile review that we did, I was blown away how much power. All I thought was I could be very happy with this. This would never bore me. It was enough to scare you easily into any corner. And if you take out the and we discovered this last week when we were driving Bob Miller's cars, how when you don't have PSM or PASM or PTV, all these driver aids, and you're just driving the car, you don't need more than 300 horsepower.
Yeah.
Anything 200 can scare the crap out of you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just a Porsche just builds incredible cars now that you need the up to horsepower before you start to get scared, not realizing that the car is doing a heck of a lot of work to make you look like you're a better driver than you are.
Yep.
All right, so thank you for announcing that we've talked about Treffin at Sea. Western Caribbean is now open for folks to make your reservations, and I believe an inside room starts at just over $1,000, and it is an amazing deal. It includes like gratuity and food, and it's a great time. Believe it or not, we have close to 450 people already registered.
An inside room is just under $1,000 per person.
Per person, yep.
Otherwise, you're sleeping outside.
Yeah, well,
I'm kidding.
Don't offer that as an option.
Outside room.
And I think the ones where there's a balcony start at like 13 or something like that. So it's still if you want to have that outside room or a little balcony.
But not many people get an inside room though.
No, and that's the funny thing is when we did it last year, they had so many inside rooms available, like they were running smoking deals, and they said that PCA members, 99% of them all took rooms with windows or balconies.
That's what Laguna Seca learned when they offered their hospitality to PCA.
PCA will pay
and
for
they
it.
Didn't think PCA was going to buy them, and we wiped them out, took everything.
Yeah. So speaking of Laguna Seca, you have here Porsche Platz.
The Porsche Platz is coming up at and you'd have to click on it to see that. There we go. Robert has it up. May 12th through 14th. It's the IMSA race at Laguna. Maybe you can snap some pictures, whoever goes, of how they're working on the pedestrian bridge, because when we were there was a lot of work to be done.
And they need to get it done before this race.
There was a bike race coming up like in 3 weeks, I think.
Like GP race?
No, a bicycle.
Oh, bicycle? Like riding your bike on the track?
Yeah.
Oh, that hopefully. Well, you're going down the corkscrew, so that helps.
Yeah, but you got to get up to the corkscrew.
Oh, you got to get up to the corkscrew at turn 5. That's a long. That's a long pedal up.
Yeah, it's.
I would love to do that though. That's a thing. I knew they did.
I don't know the details. I asked the same thing. I said, is it a motorcycle or a bike? And Melanie said it's a bicycle.
Racetracks do that. I remember at Road America for 2 videos that we filmed a few years back, we would save the interview for the end, and we'd go onto the track, and set up the lighting or reflectors and have a nice interview. What we found was that when the track closes, there are these events where you have just bikers lapping the track or runners over and over. So we had to, as people are running up the hill, this is over Canada Corner, we're down there, and they're going counterclockwise around the track. And we're doing our interview, and then we have to stop for a second, let the runners go past in the background, and start back up again. But it's a thing.
Watkins Glen had like a 4-6 hour race, bicycle race.
Really?
And so, same thing, the track shuts down, and we went to the banquet, and I never felt more fat than sitting by the window, eating a cheesecake, watching these guys on the climbing S's, bicycling. It didn't stop me from eating the cheesecake, but I was like, in soul, I'm with you, brother. I'm with you. But they were hurting and lap after lap. And Watkins Glen's a very hilly course. Same thing at VIR. We saw them at VIR.
I guess it makes sense. You have the facility available, and it's quiet, right? And
it's a perfect place to go for a run or a ride, I think.
Yep, exactly. Away from traffic and such. So looks like I will be here we're often traveling when this happens, and it's a local event that's huge, and many of us take a tour up there with a number of cars, and this is the swap meet. And it used to be the Hershey swap meet.
Are you sure you have a day pass for that?
I think so. And this is the last weekend, right? And
should I call your wife and check with her?
April 29?
Yeah, I think so. I think I do have a day pass for that.
Damn it! Now it's gonna rain.
Is it April 29th?
Yeah, April 29th. April 29th.
I hope so. That's
And
what
it's at the
said.
Carlisle Fairgrounds now. It used to be at Hershey, but they moved like 3 years ago.
I don't think they're ever going back to Hershey.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, it's a good place to see my wife sell off my belongings while,
So
I'm,
are you
while
the-
I'm still alive.
so are you gonna have a lot of stuff to sell this
I
year?
mean,
Because
enough
you brought-
stuff to fit in a Suburban. That's
Yeah.
It'll take me 10 years to get rid of all the excess junk that I have. The hardest part is organizing it.
Yeah.
But we're in our last 10 days, I think, before we settle in the building. So we're almost. I got maybe like 20 containers left. I gotta
Oh my
move
gosh.
out. But we were talking about 200 containers at one point. So
Whoa.
they're all in my attic right now. I started going through them, and I'm like, at this rate, I got to get it moved out before I can go through all of them. So, yeah, I've been taking a lot of Tylenol from moving stuff up into the attic, and
You sure your attic can carry all the weight that you're
we're going to
adding?
find out. I've thrown away a lot of old panels.
All of a sudden, yeah, the paper, right? It's the paper that's really
Yeah,
the heavy
the
stuff.
magazines weigh, and I'm getting rid of. We're selling a lot of old, like 911 Porsche World Excellence, Total 911.
Yeah. So how many things do you have that are unopened, like boxes of like models and or like at one point you remember you used those metal kits that I like drooled over as a teenager. They're made by Poacher, I think Pocher.
Oh yeah, I sold those on eBay a long time ago.
Oh my gosh! Like
I used to
they
have
were
like 200 or 300 model kits.
like back in the 90s they were like $300, and I used to drool them because they're super
I
detailed.
think I sold it for like 800.
I don't even know
It
what
was
they go for
a
now.
1/8 scale,
1/8,
993.
yes, yeah.
But I have no talent in building models, no patience rather, and so I never built these models. They were just staying. I love the artwork on the outside of the box.
The box itself was beautiful.
and
yeah.
I had the 1/12 scale Martini 935.
Really?
And all these, and then
sold
finally
them
I
all?
was I was like, I don't have room to display them, and just buying them to store them. That's
know.
where you become a hoarder.
Yes. Why you look at me so strongly when you say that word?
Because we have the national historian here, and she brought her friend, who's also husband is the autocross chair.
That
Pam
was
Sudrow,
hilarious.
and
That
she's
was-
basically told him that if
Paul, if you're listening,
Paul, if you're gone, it is the first dumpster showing up the next morning, and it's all going in the dumpster.
Paul, I highly suggest you start labeling your items because
Which reminds me of my wife, and I don't know.
Pam was like, I want nothing to do with it.
I
She didn't,
told
she
the
didn't
story
care
where
about the value.
I
She
told
didn't-
Vu the story where she sold my Orioles 6-foot Orioles picture, one of two,
Yeah.
for $100. And luckily, I was walking in the office building when the guy's walking out with the 6-foot framed photo, one of two. The owner of the Orioles has the other photo of this. Wow. And I'm like, and I looked at her, I go, what's going on? She goes, oh, I sold it. I go, for how much? She goes, $100. I go, $100?
Yeah.
I go, you know how much that's worth? She goes, well, I looked it up. I can't find it anywhere. I'm like, because there's only two of them.
Wow.
So
That's funny.
So one of the evenings when
Did you get it back?
Yes, I made her go out and give the $100 back, and it's like,
Oh, my
now it's
gosh.
safely in my attic. But it's this picture that was given as a gift, and it's the final game of the Orioles, and it's done in a 360 around the bases. So I have no place to put it right now in my house except my attic. But I sure as heck wasn't going to let it go for $100.
Yeah.
So one of the evenings when we were in Salt Lake City, I clicked on Hoarders, like the series, and they had one where it was like the highlights of Automotive, like cars of hoarders. So I was watching it. My kids literally like, Dad, that's gonna be you.
So how is the show different from what's already happening?
Well, so these stories are kind of sad because you know,
Yeah.
these guys have like hundreds of cars on their property,
Okay.
and the county's
Real
like,
The only thing stopping you is your home association from doing that.
I think I heard about this. Is this the same guy who had to start selling like his 50 or 100 cars,
Yes.
like
That's
one by
every
one by
episode of
one?
American Pickers.
Yeah.
Oh
is
my
that.
gosh.
But they had to sell it and like clean up his frontage, or he was actually going to go to jail. They're like, if you don't fix this, you're going to go to jail. And so they had this crew come up, and he was a retired veteran, and like the cleanup crew was like, how are we going to do this? So they called upon the local, military, folks, and like 40 guys show up, and they're like, we're going to help a brother out, and they start going at it. But every little thing, he was like, well, this is actually copper. And, if we just throw it away, it doesn't have any value. But if we recycle it, it's going to have value. Or like there was like this piece of metal. He's like, oh, this thing could be used for, I was planning to put this together. Oh, it was so sad. And like, it was painful. It was really and his kids, like he's yelling at his kids because he's like, you're just throwing away, all that I've worked for. And they're like, Dad, it's either we throw this away or you go to jail. And he's like, well,
and then they throw it away.
Yeah, and they throw it away. So it was
you
really
don't see the
sad.
irony in this because I can see already. I can see your Jason showing us this. Going to throw away this oil filter wrench, and I'm saying, I remember when your dad told us when he bought this. I said, "You sure you don't want to keep it?" And then Jason reaching into a box, and there's like 80 other oil filter wrenches going.
Oh my gosh, he found the episode. So there's this bus there, right? There's this bus there, and this is funny. The guy goes, "We got to move this bus." He's like, "When was the last time you were in this bus?" And the guy turns to his son. He goes, "Hey son, how old are you now?" He's like, "I'm 29." He's like, "Yeah, so last time I was in that bus 30 years ago, because that's where he was conceived."
Oh God! Wow.
Yeah, but yeah, it's. I mean, we laugh, but it's sad, and it's like it's traumatic for these people, and it will be traumatic for me. But I will say, after watching all this, like I haven't bought stuff in a while. I've been really good. Like I bought this little tool. I haven't bought any.
So when you come back from Germany next week,
oh crud, yeah. I will practice restraint and only buy things that are like super super cool and that I don't have.
That's no. I only buy things that. Honey, I only bet on a sure thing. That's the only time I'm going to gamble is when it's a sure thing.
How many of you out there listening understand? Like I'm trying, and I am running out of.
How many of you out there have bought a separate little warehouse to store your junk?
Not yet.
All right, so I think it's time to sign off here. Anything else from you guys?
Not me.
All good? All right, well, thank you for listening. If you aren't currently a PCA member and own a Porsche, what are you waiting for? Grab that VIN, go to PCA.org, and we'll get you set up with PCA membership. For those of you that don't currently own a Porsche, check out PCA's test drive program at www.pca.org. And also, if you haven't, sign up to our newsletters. We have newsletters, e-brake news, performance news, Mart Fresh. Just go to PCA.org and you can sign up for those. And remember to follow our podcast Instagram page, behind the scenes photos and videos. Porsche Club Insider, all one word. We love hearing your comments. We love seeing the likes. Comment. We read each and every one of them. If you want to stay in touch with all things PCA, again, PCA newsletters, we'll make sure that we'll be. Actually, I'll be on the road next week, so we got to figure out what we're going to do there.
You're going to call in?
I'm going to try to call in. I'll find a good hot spot.
Is that like I'm going to try to make it?
No, I will. I want to be in. I want to give you an update. I am going to Technoclassica Essen, and then I'm visiting KW's facility, Recaro's facility. We'll be in Stuttgart. So hopefully I have.
Well, you'll be seeing Paul
Gregor,
Sandra, Alex.
We'll be doing the tour. I don't know how many of the VIPs I'll be able to get to see, but I should have a good report for you guys.
I mean, you can have one of them on.
Oh, if I can make that happen, I will. That'd be very cool. All right, folks, until next time, stay safe, and we'll catch you down the road.